been a long time coming, but Sarah Boone's trial is finally here. As I record this, day one of jury selection is finished. As the trial gets going, I thought it might be nice to take a look back to the very beginning, at the interview she had at the police station where she got arrested at the end. In it, with our 2020 hindsight, we can see the red flags of what was to come for the next 4 years. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Guilty Words, where we unravel crime one word at a time. Tonight we're taking a little walk back in time and using our 2020 hindsight on Sarah Boone's police interview. And we're going to look at what were the red flags of her behavior, not the evidence, but her behavior that clued us in on what was to come. It was all in there. So let's take a look at it together. Sarah had a habit, and still does, I think, of when she feels attacked, she goes into a long speech about how wonderful she is or how well she's handled something or how unfair everything is and not her fault. She did that twice in her interview. I want to look at one of those speeches because it encapsulates the 4 main areas we're going to be looking at. It shows first her saint and victim mentality. She's either ready for canonization or she is the most put upon woman on the planet. It also shows her arrogance, and I'll add the word control to this as well. It shows her ability to deny on steroids. And we get a lot of her vague evasions, which I wish in this interview they'd pinned her down a bit more on, but maybe we'll see that in the trial. We're going to listen to this clip. It's not very long.
Then why are you still with him?
Everybody asks me that. When I tell you guys this, I really love him, like I do, and I feel like I can help him. Like, I feel like I could help him, which I did, because he came a really long way from where he was in Philadelphia to moving back to here and to dealing with everything else that he's been dealing with. I've really helped him. I've bailed him out of jail, 3 times. I've gone to every single hearing and every single arraignment, everything that I did for him. Gone to see all his public defenders, state. I've gone to the state. I did everything for him because I'm trying to help him, because I had hope in him. And he was trying. He was really trying. And then he starts to think about things, and I think he gets overwhelmed, and then it's like, the next thing I know, he's drinking. So it's like, oh man, I know where this is going to go, so I'm going to go upstairs and read a book, or I'm going to go for a bike ride, or I'm going to do something else. Where I don't want to drink. I don't want to drink. The occasional wine, whatever, or if it's a weekend, that's when you have a good time. You don't have to wake up the next day. I have to wake up the next day and do things. I have to tend to Lucas. I have to take him to school. I have all this stuff to do. He doesn't know how to, I guess, maintain himself, where I can do 50 things at once and still know the 50 things more prior that I need to get done. He can't process like that. He didn't process like that, so he would literally, not literally, but have smoke coming out of his ears. So the next thing you know, he doesn't want to deal with it. I'm going to go get something to drink. So the majority of the time, I would hang out outside or do something else because I don't want to drink. And every time, his job broke his heart. And it made me sad because he had so much pride in his job. And the store that he took care of so much totally went downhill. And that broke his heart because he had put so much work and effort into fixing it up. And his manager was awful, and basically gave up on all of the employees. So I think that had a huge bearing on why he would drink so much. His ex-wife is bonkers. She was all over him all the time. Send me money, send me money, send me money. How can I send you money when I don't have a job? And he's still trying to take care of me and Lucas by paying a bill here or there, getting some groceries. So he always had something on his mind, which is why, again, I got the puzzles and the paint to try to get him off of it so we don't have a drink. or he doesn't have a drink. So when you all see my phone, you can see all of the damage he has done to me and the videos of him smashing my television because he's belligerently drunk. Where most of the time, I just don't want to be there. And I try to help him. I try to calm him down. Eventually, he just passes out.
When Sarah's speaking, the first thing she wants to make sure people know is how helpful she was. She's George's savior, Saint Sarah. She says, I feel like I could help him, which I did. And I've really helped him. Look at all the I's in this. I've bailed him out of jail. I've gone to every single hearing and every single arraignment. Everything that I did for him. I've gone to the state. I did everything for him because I'm trying to help him. Because I have, or I had, hope in him. That sounds incredibly noble, except when you start putting it into a larger context. This isn't so much about helping, it's more about control, and we'll talk about that as we go through it. Now, as you remember, she denies being an alcoholic or drunk throughout the whole thing, and then vaguely kind of admits she might have been intoxicated, but not a drunk, when she's confronted with a video. But here she's claiming when George gets drunk, she goes on a bike ride or does something healthy like that because she doesn't want to drink. I don't want to drink. Interesting here the word want, because saying I don't drink or I won't take a drink is different than I don't want to. She may not want to, but she does. Later she blames that on George. She just does it to keep him company, keep him calm. Then she says, the right things, the occasional wine, whatever, and whatever is one of her favorite vague words. Or if it's a weekend, that's when you have a good time. Then she switches almost like she's talking to George. You don't have to wake up the next day. I have to wake up the next day and do things. That's an odd little slip that shows an awful lot of anger. I have to tend to Lucas. I have to take him to school. Which is ironic because we know her ex-husband said that she often failed at doing that. And then her arrogance keeps creeping in. I have all this stuff to do. He doesn't know how to, maintain himself, where I can do 50 things at once and still know the 50 things more previously prior that I need to get done. Sarah is just so smart. She is just amazing. He can't process like that. He didn't process like that. So he would literally, well, not literally, but have smoke coming out of his ears. What an insulting thing to say. Basically, she's saying that he couldn't process things and it was hard for him to think he'd be like some overheating computer, compared to her, who can do all this amazing stuff. She also practices the shifting of blame. And at first I thought this was interesting because she was blaming George's ex-wife for him wanting to drink. She was blaming the fact he lost his job. He had an awful manager, and that's why he wanted to drink. He was short of money. That's why he wanted to drink. And I thought, wow, she blames other people for her problems, and she blames other people for George's. And then it struck me. She blames everybody but herself. All these other factors were stressing George out, but not her. Everything with them was fine. I also thought it was kind of ironic. She said his ex-wife is bonkers. I don't know if it's really true that we always choose the same type of partner in our lives, but if she really was bonkers, then he picked another bonkers woman. And then she has a slip. I got the puzzles and paint to try to get him off of it so we don't have a drink. And then she catches herself, or he doesn't have a drink. I try to help him. I try to calm him down. Saint Sarah calms him down. It's everybody else's fault that George is upset except hers. Let's take a look at some other examples of Sarah as she's saint and victim. First, we'll start off with her sainthood. In this interview, she was talking about the parole officer. She hugged me and said she knows how much I take care of him. She called me personally one time when George was at work, when he was working. 42-minute phone call. Very precise. She and I just saying how grateful she was that George has me, and she knows how hard I'm working to help him, just as she is, and the classes will. Oh, everybody adores Sarah. I mean, I've always been a straight-A student. I am an excellent mother to my son. I excel at everything. I would not do that. She's smart and perfect. I'm not sure what her definition of excellent mother is, but everyone knows. Everyone knows everything that I've done for George, and I love him and continuously help him throughout his life with me, and that made him a happier, better person. Interesting that later she says his family absolutely hates her. She also plays the victim card. I don't think you understand who I am. This is a sub-theme of Sarah's within the victimhood, if you will. People don't understand her. She says this 2 or 3 times in this interview, and she says it over and over again in all her letters. Her lawyers don't understand her. The judge doesn't understand her. So that's what scares me. Like, what do I need to plan on? She also did this on the police cam interview. She talked about being scared as a sympathy bid. Nonetheless, I have to live with him now. Punishment in itself. This was a semi-negotiation to argue that the fact that she's going to be so upset about George's death is punishment. She doesn't need any jail time. You guys are scaring me. It's awful. And I will tell you both this right now, too. I will never drink again. Okay? So I'll be good. Just let me out of here. For me to have to live with getting him out and doing what I did is punishment enough. I think that's why I didn't sleep, because that's all I see. So that says something there. I don't think I'll ever be right because of this, ever be right, dealing with everything I have in my life personally and now this. She almost makes it sound like she's more of a victim than George. But we've seen this in her letters, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on her letters. I have whole videos on them, but I'll bring you back a little bit. I am patient, and I'm still smiling and willing to go above and beyond whatever I need to do to properly and truthfully convey my very convoluted, misunderstood side of everything. I am dedicated. Saint Sarah. On the other hand, I want you to be fully aware of the magnitude of my shock and disappointment and the betrayal of Mr. Padilla. And I unfortunately had to learn of it when calling to speak with my son. Oh, the terrible time, worst time possible. And how much wasted time, effort, and thought will be put into mutating and grossly exaggerating my case information. Poor, poor Sarah. She also exhibits her arrogance and her control. I'll sit there and figure it out for you like I have almost everything. And this is in regards to what she says to George. I say I knew George better than he knew himself. I've heard people say this, and it really is an arrogant statement to claim that you know someone better than they know themselves. Looking at his homework, and he would always come home and show me his papers, and we would look over his papers together where it's like, wow, you actually are learning this in class? This struck me as incredibly bizarre because it has the feel of a child coming home and showing his homework to mommy. Not a man coming home from anger management classes that he was told to go to because he beat on Sarah. But they look over his papers together like, good boy, with a little pat on the head. Very condescending. I have never dealt with anything like this before. I don't know what to do, how to do it, and I always know what to do and how to do it. This is at the end as she realizes that she may be arrested. And in a very telling statement, this is after we've had go-round after go-round about, it was intentional, no, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't malicious, and there's this broken record kind of, and then she says, because I've done the whole court thing. I've done this whole attorney thing. She has no idea she's going to do it a lot more. I've done whatever. So if I'm not admitting anything about being intentional, and I killed George. She's very insistent on that, and they keep trying to get her to admit to intent. And I think that has to do with the legalities of whether it's manslaughter or murder too or whatever. She is being very careful not to admit intent. And at first I thought it was just self-defense, but when she says this, it makes me realize she may have more knowledge of what kind of trouble she's in than she is letting on. The officer asks her at one point, "Does he have access to your phone because you said it's a shared phone?" And she goes into this long explanation of they shared a phone, but George couldn't access it, so he used to have to hold it up to her face when she was cooking or something so they could do the facial recognition. He didn't even have the passcode. And what control that is. We're going to share a phone, but you have to ask my permission to use it. He's a grown man, not a child. Not only that, why couldn't he get a track phone in some minutes? They had money for cigarettes and wine and everything else. He could have gotten a track phone. But she wanted that control, controlling his communication. And, in case you want to look at a letter, as Sarah gets angrier, she decides that she needs to define things for the court, and she starts writing dictionary definitions and where do I even start, and goes blathering on about her case and what's wrong with it and what's wrong with everybody connected to it. Denial on steroids. There's an old Shakespearean quote that's "Methinks the lady doth protest too much," which essentially means someone is denying something so much that it makes you suspicious that they're lying. Sarah is a lady who doth protest too much. She is always saying how honest she is and swearing to heaven and her son and everything else that she's telling the truth. In all honesty, we had not gotten into it. It was not intentional. I will put my hand on the Bible. It was not intentional. I would not do that to him nor to anyone else. Sunday, when I tell you this, I have no idea. I have no idea. And I tried in every way, shape, and form. That's one of her favorite phrases. She uses that a lot in her letters. The only thing I thought you guys were going to ask me about, which I was going to be honest with you anyway, are the scratch marks on his back. Glad she was going to be honest anyway. In no way, shape, or form was this intentional at all, ever. They asked her for the millionth time why she didn't let him out. To be honest with you, I don't know. That may be actually an honest statement for once. Maybe. 100% right hand to God. I have no idea how he got them, the bruises. Nobody touched anybody. Nobody touched anybody. She says nobody touched anybody in a variety of ways all throughout this, and it does make me wonder if she's playing a bit of a word game here, because if she beat him with a bat, as she admitted she hit his fingers anyway with the bat, technically she didn't touch him. She hit him and she beat him, but not with her hands. Just saying. I promise you on my son's life it was not intentional. I promise you on Lucas's life it was not intentional. Oh, well, if you're promising your son's life, you must be telling the truth. And again, like which I swore on my son's life it was not intentional. Okay. Sarah denying to the hilt. And I kid you not. Well, I'm glad you're not kidding in the middle of a very serious police interview about a murder. And Sarah is the queen of vague evasions. I hope that if she takes the stand and she tries this, that the prosecutor really pins her down. I wish they had pinned her down more in this interview, but 20/20 hindsight, it's easy for me sitting here to say that. They're trying to talk about the last time she had a physical altercation with George, and her stories vary, but you said that was a month ago when he hit her with a curtain rod. I'll say a few weeks, give or take, yeah. What does that mean? A few weeks, give or take, yeah. Is it a month? Is it 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 2 weeks? And again, the curtain rod incident, which you said was a month ago, give or take. Sunday was one of the better days we've had in quite some time, but I have to keep my wits about me. Sarah had been saying, it was a good day, it was a good day, it was a good day, nobody touched each other, we didn't fight. And then there's this odd qualifier. Sunday was one of the better days we've had in quite some time. Up until now, she had a wonderful month with George. They hadn't had a good day in quite some time. Sunday was one of the better days, not necessarily a good day. And you still had to keep your wits about you? What do you mean by one of the better days in quite some time? What's been happening? She said to George, let's go. So we're doing whatever. We did it for a while because that puzzle, I don't know if they took it or if they saw it. We worked on the puzzle again, finished it, started to paint. So we're doing whatever. What is whatever? Is it talking? Is it fighting? We did it for a while. They did the whatever for a while. What is the whatever? We now know somewhere in there she was taunting him to call his daughter while he'd had too much to drink, or to call his friend and tell him that he dragged her down the stairs the night before. Guess they really hadn't had a month of no physical problems. But again, there isn't a follow-up on what whatever is. So we can do puzzles and painting and listen to music or whatever else he wants to do. So then he starts doing whatever it is we're doing together in the living room. What does that mean? Whatever else he wants to do, so then he starts doing whatever it is we're doing together in the living room. What is it? There's an awful lot of cagey vagueness around exactly what was happening that afternoon. No, when I tell you this, it made me so happy that he actually listened to what I had to say with just, we'll get through this, this'll be fine. Just like the stress, they were trying to probe and find out if Sarah and George had been having a relationship talk. And she was avoiding the question. She kept saying it was general stress, groceries and money and whatever, his job. Just like, what's going on right now? What does that mean? What does that mean? What's going on right now? You're screaming at him? You're mad that he dragged you down the stairs the night before? You're hitting him with a baseball bat? What are you talking to him about that you're happy he's listening? And what is it that's going on right now? But when we were outside, that's where we would start and talk about things. And then eventually I was the one that had him come inside so we could, and she goes into explaining about the whatevers. So they were outside, but they started to talk about things. What things? What things? And I'm not going back to the house, to my house, for however long I can stay over here, Brian's, because of whatever to blow over. Because of whatever to blow over? That whatever we can figure out. Because of you zipping George in a suitcase and killing him, you're going to stay at your ex-husband's until that blows over and you can go back to your house? And again, a description of what was happening. Playing with the dog, whatever. And then it's like, okay, now let's do the painting. Playing with the dog and that whatever again. Whatever is her favorite word to avoid specifics. So what do we see in this first interview with Sarah? We see a lack of remorse. We see blaming others. We see her arrogance and belief that she's superior to pretty much everybody. We see her black and white thinking. We see her belief that if she can just explain things, people will understand. Everything we saw in the letters, and everything I think we'll see in the trial. It's hard for me, even knowing her arrogance and her attitude to believe that she thinks she's going to talk her way out of consequences for this by going to trial. But next few days we shall see. Thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate your time. I know you have a million places you could be on YouTube, and it's nice that you chose to spend some time here. If you've liked this content and you're not a subscriber, we'd love to have you join our growing Guilty Words family. During the trial, I won't do anything as formal as the graphics, but I will try and hop on now and again just to give a little commentary and maybe pick my favorite lines and see what yours were. I'm looking forward to some good sarcasm, and I really hope Sarah testifies. If she does, we'll definitely have a long discussion about that. Thank you again, and until we meet in the next video, please use your words wisely and well. Take care.